Good morning, dear students. We are going to start with lesson number 2, Historiography, Indian Tradition. Now, in the first lesson, Historiography Development in the West, we have seen what is historiography. Historiography is nothing but the critical writing of history, all right, and what all points need to be kept in mind while writing down events of the past. Now, in this lesson, it talks about historiography, Indian tradition, how historiography plays an important role in Indian writing or Indian history. All right, so let's begin. Historiography in the ancient period. Now, we all know that history has been divided into three periods: ancient history, medieval history, and modern history. All right, now, in the ancient period in India, memories of the great deeds of ancestors, mythological lore, memories of social transition were all preserved with oral recitals. A recital is nothing but a performance. All right. So, in the earlier times, man did not know or had difficulty in the process of writing. Okay. So, another way of sending information down the generations from one generation to the other is through oral means or oral sources. So they would talk, they would have songs that would be sung about certain heroes or about a certain event or about a certain festival that they would celebrate. So over time, these were the oral sources, which also play a very important role in writing of history. Harappan seals and artifacts confirm that Indians mastered the art of writing as early as the 3rd millennium BCE or even before that. BCE is nothing but before Common Era. Alright, before it was just called BC, that means before Christ. But now they have changed it and now it's only called BCE or CE, that is Common Era. This script has not been fully deciphered. What do you mean by the term deciphered? Not completely decoded its actual meaning to come to the full truth of what these scripts are supposed to tell us or what information we can gather from it. Inscriptions are the earliest known written documents of historical nature. Now we already know what inscriptions are. They are nothing but carvings that would be done into the walls. All right, and learning those inscriptions gives us a lot more information about the historical events of the past. Now these are dated right back to the 3rd century BCE, where we see in Ashoka Maurya's time. All right, we all know about Ashoka pillar. All right, so on those pillars we would have inscriptions and his edicts. An edict is nothing but an official order from the king. All right, would be inscribed on these pillars or on natural rocks and stone pillars. In the 1st century CE, Common Era, all right, that is, inscriptions used to occur on coins, metal images, and sculptures and copper plates. All right, so we used to have, or we see that through research by various historians, we get to see how these inscriptions play an important role in the writing of history. And through these inscriptions we get to know about the dates of various kings. All right, from which time to which year to which year did this king rule in the country. All right, dynastic genealogies, we've already studied about genealogy in the previous lecture. I told you, like a family tree. All right, so we would know that if this was the king, who was his great grandfather, who was his grandfather, what was his son, and how over the years in this generation, more and more information. Territorial extent territorial extent to know the boundaries of the kingdom. And administration also, uh, poli- various political events, social organizations, climates, famine. We get to know so much about the past only through these inscriptions. So the study of these inscriptions also plays a very important role when we are writing about history. Okay. Ancient Indian literature, including the epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata, the Puranas, Jain and Buddhist texts, historical accounts by various Indian authors, and also travelogues by foreign travelers, are very important sources of history. So we get more and more information from ancient in Indian literature also. We all know about the two epics of India, that is Mahabharata and Ramayana. Apart from that, the Jain and Buddhist texts, okay, they give us so much of information about the ancient events, or the life of the people, the climate, what kind of administration, who was the king, was he a good king, was he a bad king, was there progress made during that king's reign. All of this information plays a very important role. Apart from that, travelogues. What do you mean by a travelogue? A travelogue is nothing but an account written by people who have traveled from other countries into India, and while they are traveling through India, they write more and more accounts of their travel. Biographies of kings. What is a biography? A biography is nothing but the life of someone else being written. All right. So if a king's biography was written by someone else, we get to know more and more information. Harsha Charit, please underline that in your textbooks, is written by Bhanabhatta about King Harsha. All right. So during the rule of King Harsha, what was the state of affairs that took place within his kingdom? Was he a good king? Did the people like him? What kind of festivals were celebrated? What was his administration? What were his policies? All of this is given under this biography, which adds to the writing of history. All right, it portrays a realistic picture of social, economic, political, religious, and cultural life during the king's time. So we get so much of information not only about the king but about the kingdom as well. Historiography in the medieval period. Now we finished with the ancient period, we've come to the medieval period. The style of writing, all right, now please underline that Raj Tarangini, the history of Kashmir by Kalhana in the 12th century CE, is quite close to the concept of modern historiography. What do you mean by this? We've already studied in the previous lesson what modern historiography expects. All right, we have to make sure that we get authentic documents, to counter those documents and check whether they are original or fake. All right, to make sure that there is authenticity, critically examining these documents or seals or any other type of evidence that we have. All right, so this particular writing, Raj Tarangini by Kalhana, gives us a concept of modern historiography, where Kalhana wrote the text after critically examining various sources like inscriptions and coins and remains of ancient monuments, dynastic records, and local traditions. After critically examining them to make sure that they are authentic information, only then has he compiled all his information into this book. Now, on your right hand side, there's a small little box given to you. I'm sorry, on page number 7. Okay, there is a copper plate that was found, all right, at Sohagaura, that is in Uttar Pradesh. And through this copper plate, the inscriptions that we see, it is believed to be from the Mauryan period, and it has the Brahmi script. The symbols that are inscribed on this plate are indicative of a tree. I'm sure you all can all see that there is a small little plant like inscription given in the side, and then you have like a mountain in the middle. Okay, and the structure of 4 pillars, I'm sure all of you all can see those 4 pillars, okay, with a kind of a dome looking object in the on top of it. All right, that represents a granary. A granary is nothing but a big room where grains are stored. Okay, it records a royal order about the careful distribution of grains in the granary and precautions to be taken during a famine. Now all of you all know what a famine is, where there is shortage of food. So when there is a shortage of food, how a granary can be a can be like a saving source for the people, where the grains that was stored in the granary for so long can be equally distributed amongst the people so that no one would die of starvation. Um, okay, so we have come to the historiography in the medieval period. Yes or no? So here we see that in the medieval period in India, the historians in the court of Muslim rulers, we knew that there were Muslim rulers in India, the Sultanate, the Persians, all right, they were influenced by Arabic and Persian historiography. How history was written in Arabic and Persian history. Among them, very important, please underline, Ziauddin Barani holds an important place. Now he has written a book, okay, known as Firuz Shahi. This book, he states the purpose of historiography. In this book, he says how historiography plays an important role and what are the things or what are the rules that you need to follow in order to write the events of the past in a correct manner. All right. According to him, the historian's duty is not limited only to the recording of the ruler's valor and policies of welfare, but also should write about the ruler's failings and incorrect policies. Now, here in his book, he has mentioned that a historian, while writing any historic event, has to make sure that his writing is impartial. Okay, he just cannot write about all the good things about the king and forget about all the bad things. We have to make sure that along with the king's bravery, along with the welfare that he has done for his people, all the things that the king has failed at, all his failures and all the incorrect policies, wrong policies of the king should also have been mentioned in history. All right, if you do not write it, then you are giving a wrong impression or wrong account of the past events. Historians should take into account the impact of the teachings of the wise, learned, and the saints on cultural life of the people. During that time, when you are writing about a particular event, all right, you should also take into account or also take into consideration the preachings of the wise people. You know, in the olden times, we used to have these wise people sitting under trees and they used to talk to the people. Okay, so those accounts should also be taken into consideration. Why? Because at that time we get to know more and more about the uh, progress of the country or the progress of that kingdom or administration or policies of the king through these common people, because they are wise, they are learned, and they have so much more to share. All right, so it will not be just a one sided account of history. We should have you know, take into consideration the accounts of even the wise people, the saints, people who were learned at that time. What was their views about the king? All of this should be mentioned during writing down of these historical events. Barani further says that a historian should take into consideration the impact of teachings of the wise, the learned, the saints on cultural life of the people. Thus, Barani expanded the scope of historiography. Because of him, we come to know that not only what the king says should be written down in history books, but also what the other people, the common people, have to say about the king. So, take into consideration everyone's point of view. For the historians in the Mughal courts praising, all right, so we can come back to that slide where we see that the king always had a person who would write down his good deeds, his policies, the welfare that he has done for the people. All right, and these Muslim historians, all right, they would show their loyalty and eloquence in praising the emperor. Okay, they would only talk about or praise the emperor in such an extravagant, uh, a, a lot of good words would be used for the king. All right, a lot of praise would be taken. Quotes used to be used, poetic devices used to be used in order to praise the king. And what happened, because of all this praising, they forgot that the king is not always good. All of us are not good. We do have some bad qualities also, but they forgot to write that, or rather they did not want to write it because they wanted to be on the good side of the king. Apart from that, they also added suitable poetic quotes, and pictures were introduced in these writings. So in their books they would also have small little pictures about the king and his good deeds, and everything would be mentioned in this fancy manner. Next we come to Babur. He is the founder of the Mughal Empire, and he wrote an autobiography. You all know what an autobiography is, where you write accounts of your own life. All right, a biography where someone else writes about someone else's life. Okay, in this book, in his autobiography that is entitled Tuzuk-e-Babari, it contains the descriptions of the battles that were fought by him. Now, he is a king, and in the Mughal times, there were a lot of wars that took place. So, his wars, his battles that he fought, he has written down, given a brief account of. He has also mentioned minute observations about various regions and cities that he has visited. Being the king, he had full authority to move around. Alright, so as he visited various different places, various different cities, he would make an account of those things that he has seen, and information about local economy, customs and flora is known through these writings. All right, so we get to see minute, very detailed account. Next we come to Abul Fazl in his book called Akbarnama. Okay, now this book is very famous because they believe that this book is devoid of all bias. What do you mean by bias? To have a partial view. Okay, now they say that he has written this book so well that it is completely impartial. There is no prejudice against this book. The analysis of historical information is based on authentic documents. So all the information that has been put into the Akbarnama, all right, has firstly gone through thorough analysis, has gone through research. He has not just put down anything from his imagination. He has actual authentic documents, and based on those documents he has written down these certain information. Scrutiny of information. What do you mean by scrutiny? To check and see, to verify whether the document that he is using is authentic or not, original or fake. His method is devoid without any prejudice, and hence we can say that his work is realistic. Okay, there is no prejudice at all in his work. Prejudice, to have wrong views about. All right, now we come to a different kind of document which is very important while writing down history, which is known as Bakhar. Okay, it is an important type of historical document, and it contains eulogies. What do you mean by a eulogy? A eulogy is a speech, or a long essay which describes or praises someone who has died. All right, elaborate essay, or a speech that is given when someone dies. So eulogies of heroes and stories of historical events, battles, lives of great men, all these are included in a historical document which has been called as a Bakhar. Now, the Marathi Bakhars are of various types. Okay, now I've given you a small little diagram here. If you want, you can draw it yourself so it becomes easier to remember the information. Sabasad Bakhar was written by Krishnaji Anand Sabasad during the reign of Chhatrapati Rajaram Maharaj. Now, we all know that he is the second son of Shivaji, and during or while we read his Bakhar, all right, we get more and more information about the rule of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Okay, so we get more information about Shivaji's rule in India and in Maharashtra, especially because he was the one that started the Maratha rule. All right, so we get more and more information. Next, we see two types of Bakhars which speak about the same event, that is the Battle of Panipat. The first one is Bahu Sahibanche Bakhar, and the other one is Panipatanchi Bakhar. All right, so both these are events that have taken place, that is the Battle of Panipat, and how it describes the eulogies or great speech that is being made about the heroes in the battle, or what exactly happened, who died, who won, who lost the battle, who was the battle fought between. all of this information plays a very important role while writing about events of the past. Next one we see is Holkaranchi Kaifiyat. That gives us information about the Holkars. The Holkars is nothing but a Maratha clan in India, all right, and their contribution to the Maratha rule. So we get to see all these Bakhars, how they help in the writing of history or historiography. All right, so we get to see how this historical document plays an important role while historians talk about events of the past. Now, there are different types of Bakhars. It can be divided into biographies of kings. I've already told you what biographies mean. Dynastic history, to talk about dynasty, kingdoms of the kings. Description of events. History of the sect. Now, what do you mean by a sect? A sect is nothing but a group of people within a larger community. For example, if you talk about Christians, all right, Christians have two major divisions or sects. All right, that is, the you have the Roman Catholics and you have the Protestants. All right, so if you want to know more about these two divisions in this larger community, we have Bakhars that also speak about these smaller communities. I've just given you an example. Autobiographies, obviously you'll already know what autobiographies mean. Regarding grievances, all right, grievances is something that you have a problem with. All right, then you have Bakhars based on mythologies. What is mythology? Mythology is nothing but religious stories, all right, and obviously state administration of a king, how the king went about his administration, whether his policies were good or no, were they for the welfare of the people, or was the king selfish. All right, all of this we get information from these historical documents known as a Bakhar. All right, with that we finish with part 1 class. I want all of you all to go through your textbooks right up till here, because there is a lot of information. Okay, as well as on page number 8 there is a do you know box given to you, where you have accounts of Indian history being written by other historians, people from other countries. All right, so they or their accounts also play an important role while writing events of the past. So with that we come to the end of part 1. Okay, thank you class and have a nice day.